their take would be on the 10%.
Okay.
We would I know they did tell us, once you agree, you get in there and find something else, they aren't giving you any more money, so
271 is what we want.
we figure we'll at least ask for the
Yeah.
10%, see what they say when we reach out, and then I guess go accordingly when we know what they say.
So then I made that motion on the 271,000.
271,
We have
931.
a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mariner grant draft letter.
Last meeting, you asked us that we prepare a letter to go to the school district to request a contribution to cover the amount of stormwater improvements that is not going to be covered by the grant. You didn't give us really any direction on how or how much to ask or how you would apportion the 70,000 that's not covered. So before the letter was sent, I wanted to pass it by you again to make sure you're okay with the tone of the letter and what the ask is. And if you are, then it'd be my suggestion that, I know we drafted it under Eric's letterhead, since it's a request for money, it may be more appropriate to send it from the board chair as a request. So if you had time to take a look at how we prepared it.
I was the letter, I thought it sounded good.
Yeah, I think it was perfect.
Fair.
And so for the public's edification of the 70,000, the township will request a 50% contribution from the school district. So you're splitting it 50-50. Most of the project is to the benefit of the school district and not the township. So hopefully it's well received. And then it's a pretty good deal because the total $170,000 project would require just a $35,000 commitment from you guys. That's about 20%, and then 35 from the school district. So it's a pretty good deal. So we'll go ahead and send this off if you want to vote to approve it.
I'll make a motion to go forward with it.
I'll second.
A motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
2022-23 police contract for approval.
So I'm going to introduce that.
Sure.
The board can remember that last month, or the public can remember that last month, the board had an executive session because the police association had made a proposal to start contract negotiations. And a bit of good news, the parties have reached an agreement on a new contract. The current contract expires at the end of this year, December 31st. Act 111 is the statute that governs collective bargaining with the police, and so there are certain requirements that the last year of the contract is the time that the police need to start making their request to bargain, so that's why it's occurring at the time that it is. The only changes would be to the term of the contract. This would be a 2-year contract running from January 1, 2022 through December 31st, 2023. And then to the wages, the township is agreeable to a 4% raise in 2022, and again, 4% in 2023. All other terms of the contract remain unchanged. It's my understanding that the police association has approved the contract and signed it, and so it is now your time to consider it and then take a vote if you're inclined to do so.
I make a motion to accept that contract.
I'll second.
A motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Draft policy, towing policy update.
In accordance with the discussion that you had last meeting, I want to say there's 3 changes that you asked to be made. And so first, and this will be in your possession, I guess, on page 2, there's a new clause that requires a tow truck operator to promptly respond to a dispatch requesting towing assistance by arriving at the scene within 20 minutes of the initial dispatch. In the event a tow truck operator is unable to arrive within 20 minutes of dispatch, the operator shall inform dispatch so that an alternative tow truck operator may be dispatched. The second change on page 4 is consistent with that. Under the minimum requirements and qualifications for the tow truck operators is that they have the ability to arrive at a scene within 20 minutes of initial dispatch. On page 7, the change is that when someone's not able to respond within 20 minutes, perhaps they're on another call, the next towing company on the rotation list will be requested by the officers. On page 8, there's been language addressed that tow truck operators shall be dispatched through the county rather than by calling cell phones. That was an issue raised in the last meeting. And then on page 10, there was a concern raised that the tow truck operators are not always given the contact information for the owners of the vehicles. And so on page 10, we've added a sentence that says, in every vehicle that is towed at the request of an officer, the officer shall notify the operator of the name, address, and phone number of the owner of the vehicle if it is known.
Now, there was a situation that just happened up on 176 where the girl was pregnant. Is that true? You read that one? And they took her out of the car and took her right to the hospital and never got any information. So, I mean, there may be situations where they might not be able to get you the information in a situation like that.
They normally run the tag.
Right, where the registration's in the.
Well, I know you had brought up
I just got a check.
I know, but I'm just saying, you
Here's
brought up
an
about
instance,
the
I just got a
information.
check from, Judge Flash for $250 for restitution. We're back in 2018 for a name. I don't know who it's for. I called Judge Flash, asked him what it was for. Matter of fact, Officer Brecker was the officer. I still don't know what it's for. Cause I don't have no names, no nothing.
Christmas.
I'm not gonna cash it.
The
I'm not gonna cash a check, I don't know if it belongs to me. They're saying it does, but I can't verify it.
Well, give it to me, I'll cash it.
Lastly, on page 7, I'll revisit one issue that received a lot of discussion in the last meeting. That's the rotation period. It reads right now that the rotation period shall be determined by the chief of police and shall be adhered to by the police department in making towing requests. And so in its present form, the board would be giving the discretion to the chief to set up a system of rotation that is administratively feasible, easy to follow, comply with. There's this discussion on whether that should be call to call, or weekly, or daily. And so right now in its present form, you're gonna be relying on the chief to make that decision and maybe change it if it's not working. If you wanna be more specific and dictate either call to call, weekly or bi-weekly, then you should provide that direction. I don't wanna speak for Matt, but I think Matt wants a system that's administratively practical from their standpoint, so that it doesn't create inadvertent omissions or
How about the
mistakes.
closest?
One weekly,
I thought it'd be nice that I could write on the schedule, pay period to pay period, which is bi-weekly schedule. If you wanted to go weekly, I mean, we could do that. The call-to-call thing is just, if I come in and the other officer's out on an accident, and then I get one or something, I'd have to call him up and ask him where he left off on the list, and it's just not practical.
Day to day. It would at least have to be day to day, where you had a list in here where, for example, if you don't mind me saying, Schaefer's today, Matt Menace tomorrow, you know what I mean? So everybody is well aware of that schedule, because I agree with you in that hour to hour, minute to minute is gonna be confusing.
I
right, you
think,
definitely wouldn't want to do it that way. but-
because if we did it day to day, we cover, I mean, there's just a lot of shift swapping with guys might be coming in, a part-time might have to cover for you because you're on vacation type of thing. This, I could plan this out for the rest of the year if I could.
There's
do
no
it.
way with, computers and electronics that you could just have a rotation. So say you call the next guy last, he's still working on a job, and you get another call, can you go to the next guy, you know what I mean?
We-
Rather than wait
Or
till
is this gonna be
tomorrow.
up on a whiteboard possibly if it's in
That's
the.
what I'm thinking.
Right.
That's-
just-
there's gonna be, I would
For
like,
this one, this one, this one.
We have a bi-weekly, our pay periods, that's how it is. It'd be easy to mark them off on the schedule, so when the guys look at the schedule, they can see who's the on-call for the tows. The day-to-day thing, I still think leaves room for error, and I don't want any of the guys to get jammed up over, they call the wrong tow agency. Okay, we don't, during the daytime, I would say we have Teresa in the office, but at night, we don't have anyone. So, for someone to keep track of it for them is impossible. And we don't have any system of, I don't know, emailing, I could do that, but if it's,
Right, no.
these guys,
I'm
when
thinking
they
more of a
when they
visual
come in,
whiteboard, so when they're in the office, they clearly see
right,
who's posted
Yeah,
for.
when they go
for
in and
this
check into their
week, or-
shift, they look at the board and see
Right.
who's
the
on.
the
that
last thing
call.
I wanna do is set up a program that's set up for failure.
Right,
I think if we do call to call, we're setting it up for failure.
yeah,
You guys can't keep track of that, I would agree with that. That's, if we had someone in the office 24 hours a day, that'd be easy, they could handle it. But we don't, so I would agree, so let me ask you this then, Mac, because you guys are the ones who deal with this. What is best for you, what would work
well, he's
best
saying
for the
pay
police
period,
department?
two weeks,
Every 2 weeks.
every 2
1 week
weeks.
or 2 week period. That way I can plan it on the guy's rotation, and I can write it on and I can fill it in to the end of the year. That way it's there, we don't have to worry about it unless, the board needs to change something, or we add or remove an
So
agency or
coincide
something.
with their rotation,
Right.
it's just one less thing to have to track.
That way, our part-time guys, who might not be in here every day, will come in and they can look on the schedule that they're here today, and they can see what agency work we have going on.
So it'll be right on the schedule.
Mhm.
Well, I would like to go with this being least fail-proof as possible. That would be my ultimate plan.
We can
for
always
this.
change it if, if you find out that it's not working.
It's not real complex, I don't
Right,
anticipate a problem.
I mean, I'm okay with going by the schedule, it's gonna work with the schedule to make it easiest for remembering, and people can see it on their schedule.
Mhm.
Until it snows for the 2 week period that he's on.
Right,
And
yeah.
the other person doesn't get
And
any
that's
calls
fine.
because of
I mean-
snow.
But
I
here's the
remember
thing.
when we talked about that, it's,
I mean, when was the
it's
last
an
time?
act of God, and not only if it snows and, not every tow agency can handle
Right, so there might
multiple
be
tows at
one.
once, so we'd be going to another agency anyway.
Right,
Right,
right.
but and I would agree with that if this towing agency is on for these 2 weeks and can't handle 2 tows at once, you go.
Well, if we can't make within the 20 minutes, we're
Things-
calling someone else anyway.
Things can
we're
change,
going
and
next
if
on the list.
if we call somebody, they don't answer, then we move on.
Right, you're gonna go to the next one on the list, that's what you have to do.
Right.
So I don't think it'll be a big deal, I mean, what do you wanna try? I mean, you get this
Let's
started.
start out with his suggestion and we'll go from there, we can
2
change
weeks.
that.
Okay,
Bi-weekly, yeah.
bi-week.
Bi-weekly.
Do you want us to revise the policy to expressly state bi-weekly, or allow it to stay as is with his discretion, with the understanding that he's going to do it bi-weekly initially? And if he wants to change it, he'll bring it back.
I would like to
Yeah,
make
you
a
can bring it
motion
back
that we
up.
leave that the way it is, that it's handled by the officer in charge / chief at this point in time,
But with the approval of the
with
board.
with the acknowledgement that he is going to go bi-weekly with the same towing company, regardless, and we're gonna go through dispatch to get that towing company.
Okay.
So that will all be recorded.
That way we can change it. Might want to change it.
Was there like location, how close they are to the area or something?
To the police department,
Yeah,
to this location.
yeah. Wasn't that changed in there as well?
That was.
He's not finished with that.
Okay, but he shut it.
Wait, yes,
Yeah.
you-
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, it's inserted on page 5, 10 miles from
10 miles.
this
10
police
miles, 20
department.
minutes.
I believe it
Okay.
was 10 miles or 20 minutes, what you just,
So that's in there.
what you addressed.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I thought you said that.
Good. good memory.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. So like, let's say my daughter wrecks her truck, and needs a tow. So you guys get called, you call dispatch saying, call Schaefer's, and then they make the call? Is that how you handle it? I'm a little confused
Before
on,
that happens,
like,
you would have
logistically.
the choice to call.
You
Have
can call
whoever you want.
your tow.
I know, but I just say if it went through the police, I think my daughter's by herself, doesn't know what to do. You know, I'm just trying to figure out like how that,
So you would have the option of calling your tow company. Now, if your daughter's in an accident and blocking, impeding traffic.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that's just-
And the police
yeah,
officer
right.
takes over, calls dispatch and says, I need the tow company out here. And they call whoever's on
Our
that
tow
list.
company
and then you
will
tell them the name, basically, who to
And
call.
if they can't make it,
Okay, that's what I was missing
something.
something in there. That's what I was missing.
My son was just in an accident in November, but in Robinson, and, they called the tow truck. They wouldn't wait for AAA.
Yeah.
They're gonna take too long.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. So,
If you have no more changes, then you can either vote to approve the policy tonight or put it on, you can table it and consider it at your next meeting. Matt, do you
Make
need
a
more time?
motion to approve the policy.
No, if we agree on that, then I can, because we have the application form, then you added the disclaimer, in form. I can start getting after the guys immediately.
okay, so once this is approved, any tow truck that, they're currently towing, like Schaefer, you should review this policy and they should all re-sign.
He's, yeah, there's a form he'll fill out.
Okay,
Um,
that way everyone's clear on the same policy.
And
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept this policy as written.
So that's gonna be a 2-week rotation?
yeah.
2 weeks, yeah.
You sure you wanna do that?
I think we're gonna start with that, just to try it.
If it doesn't work out, we'll tweak it, but we have to start somewhere.
Well, you just agreed to make it up to him.
We approve it though, we suggested the two.
Upon our approval, it is up to the officer in charge / chief to run that program as of now, with the option of us changing it if it doesn't work out.
And you have a application?
One will need to be developed. I think after you approve the policy,
Right, then we'll,
staff can put together an application form to complete and a checklist to make sure all the requirements are met.
and I'll be given copies of this here.
Wait. 2-week rotation.
That's what we said, yes. And then on that, you'll have the list of the tow truck drivers, so we know, or how's that get done?
Burks will call him, and then he can organize what driver he's gonna send. That's what you're asking me.
The ones that we use, we'll have on file for us to easily know who the
Oh,
tow
yes.
truck companies
Yeah.
are.
So you're gonna have it where 2 weeks a guy, or a company's gonna be on, then the next company's on the next 2 weeks. Then the next company's on the next 2 weeks.
Well,
So-
they're at the
So if
top of
this
the
guy
list to be
gets,
called.
so if this guy gets slammed with snow and he gets all the tows, the next guy, Sonny and 50 out for 2 weeks, he gets nothing, then the
Well,
next
if he
tow
gets
company's
slammed
out.
by toes, is he
It's
gonna be
not
able to make it
gonna-
out
it's
for
not gonna
20
work.
minutes for a rotation?
It's not gonna work.
why don't
It's not a
you just try
rotation.
it for a while
And
and
also,
see?
'Cause
our
Really?
interim chief that we have here, I even asked him, and he is now chief at a very large PD, and I asked him what he does for his tows, and this is what he does.
Okay,
And I mean, and they have somebody in the office even,
okay.
you know, so.
I mean, we gotta start somewhere, I mean,
We can reframe it if it
practical.
doesn't
How's
work.
how's the state police do it? And why do they do it that way?
I don't know.
I know exactly
That's-
why they do it that way.
Because they have someone at the desk 24 hours a day.
Because they got sued for favoritism.
okay.
This is a policy.
That's
so
what
we're
I'm
not
asking,
favoring
is, are you
anybody.
sure this is what you wanna do?
We're not favoring anybody, this is a policy.
I'm saying, one guy could get two weeks, he could get slammed. The next guy, he's on for 2 weeks, nothing. The next guy, he could get 1 or 2. You know, it all depends on weather.
But if they're slammed, they're gonna be using multiple people
Right.
because
How many times has this township used multiple people? Do you know how many times?
I don't know.
You should have records, he should have records of it. He could tell you.
Okay, well, I mean, as of now, I think everyone vote, we're gonna try the 2 weeks.
I'm sure you wanna change things.
I mean, I'm set,
I got a letter from the township, that was, I got a letter from the township from the IA investigation. I think you ought to read that before you change anything.
June, we already approved, correct?
Made a motion, wait for a second.
Oh, was there a second? For the 2 weeks to approve this?
So I can have the same argument if we do it a day at a time, and today it snows and Ron gets slammed. And then tomorrow it's Jack's telling you Jack gets nothing, that's not fair.
That's why you do it.
If we do it hour by hour, and for the hour that Schaefer's on, he gets slammed, but Jack gets next hour and gets nothing.
Hour by
Where
hour
do we
is
wanna
not-
stop this?
Right.
It's toe by toe, call by call. That's the fairest way to do it.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Fair Police Mutual Agreement update. I don't think we have an update on that.
Still waiting for the municipalities.
I haven't. Are you serving as the point of contact, or do you want me to start interfacing with the solicitors? I've not done that.
I don't know, sent them out, so. And I sent them to the chiefs, I didn't send them to the lawyers involved.
Okay, so Police Department policies for consideration. So we have code of on-off duty conduct, arrest, police custody and control prisoners, pursuit and emergency vehicle operations, search and seizure, and domestic violence. So these 5 are the ones that are considered probably,
Yeah, to back up for the public, I was asked, what are the next top 5 that you would wanna make sure the police department would have in place? This is not to mean that the department does not already have a policy in place on one or more of these subjects, but the policy manual was last updated 1999, I believe.
so these are the
So
next
even if
5
there
you
is
wanna
one that's
review.
from 99, it's over 20 years old. So these are the 5 that are most likely to come into play or provide the township with the most amount of exposure that you would want to ensure you have an up-to-date policy in place. I've not done any work on any of these, I'm just answering that one question that was had. And so that's why they're here.
I think we need to move forward and keep moving until we can get,
How detailed is it gonna be? Do we need to just pick a couple and do two and move on from
well, that's
there?
up to us, I mean, what,
Completely up to you.
yeah.
In the past, you've been reluctant to do anything. If you want to do one or all 5, up to you. I would do it the same way that we did the last couple, which would be to provide a model policy to Matt, that he can then customize to meet the needs of this department, and then get it to you for discussion.
I mean, how much time you think is gonna be invested in this? I mean, you're gonna be taking what we have and kind of just updating it, correct?
I wouldn't think much, because most of these get into a lot of tactics that you're not gonna have much input into anyway, so it's really just
Review and,
providing that with a model. All of these are fairly standard off-the-shelf policies that we've done before. And so it would be minimal. It's not gonna be nothing, but it would be minimal.
So what if we were to do just,
the first 2.
yeah, I mean, pick 1 or 2 and let's go with it so that we don't get lost. It's not, don't just become one big bowl of
Right, like you
soup.
got lost last time, we just didn't get stuff done, so we keep chugging away at it.
So what if we
getting
pick 1 or
done.
2 in the order that they're in and work on it from there?
You want anybody to
Maybe
make a
have one
motion?
by our next meeting?
Yeah, I don't know if they're in priority order based on listing. I wouldn't say that. Do you have a view, Matt, on which of these 5 you would want to address first?
Whatever you like.
Well, I would say, I mean, honestly, I kinda like the order they're in that first you address the officer, then you address, how he arrests, keeps people in custody or controls a prisoner. So I think it's pretty good in order, I would say, would you not?
It's fine to me. Just as long as I had to, like you said, a big bowl of soup, you know, I think like 2 of them would be nice, I could,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know, but.
More than that, it
two
just,
are fine.
you get lost in it because it's so much
do
work.
you wanna make a motion to do the first 2, code of on and off duty conduct and arrest, police, custody and control of prisoners?
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Eric, you can send me like, you can send me something on that, you will?
Eric, how long do you think it would take to get maybe even the first one and then, kind of lined up?
Well, like you say. it
For
has
those
to go to-
two, I'll have to Matt within a day or so.
Right.
Okay,
And then it's a question of, remember, Matt's working, so it's a question of when he can work it in and put time into
And compare
it.
it
Most
to
of
what
it's
you
gonna
might
be
have
his
already.
work, not really my work.
Well, it's 21 years, I don't think you have to get it in.
Well, I mean, I think,
Right, right.
I think we keep it on our agenda, you know what I mean? So
Right,
we don't
so we
forget
don't-
about it.
no, I'm just
Yes.
thinking so that we can see, at that point, we can, at our next meeting, we can discuss those two, and we can ask Eric how much time he had wrapped up in it. And then we'll have a better idea of where we're
Where
at.
to move forward with it.
Or find out if we don't have one of these 5, or maybe start with them first.
Right, that can be the next one, whatever. Yes.
Okay, chief of police ad update.
Receiving resumes until March 12th, and then I will, you just go through and, you know, those that aren't clearly qualified, I'll just set those aside and then follow the procedures that Eric had us establish, so March 12th. Soon hear something after that.
Okay, do you need an executive session?
No, I don't.
I got a question. Eric, did Joan give you the contracts for the Tons Fund to review? The auditor wanted you to review them and see if the township is properly covered as far as liability in the contract. Did you give him them?
I think I have a note at my desk when I came in, yes.
Sticky note on it. Sticky note says Eric on it, Joan? I think I see it there.
Yeah, just ask that you review them.
Oh, yes, thank you. I have it here.
Yes, if you could review that and make sure, in your opinion, if the township is properly covered liability.
I will
with the contract.
Review it.
But we also have the concern of the certificate of insurance listing us as additional insured on their policy. We haven't had one in 5 years.
Okay, I will take a look at these contracts and share my thoughts.
Yet, every contract says that they would forward one upon renewal, which I assume is a renewal of their insurance policy, but we apparently never received one.
Okay, supervisor comments.
I have nothing.
Jeff?
Nothing. Yeah, we can return.
Motion and a second, all in favor?